Hello and thank you for listening today. My name is Michelle and I'm going to be giving a brief overview on Teclistamab. To start off with a little bit of background information, I wanted to just mention the brand name of Teclistamab is Tecvayli, and the current indication is for treatment of adult patients with relapsed or refractory multiple myeloma who previously did receive 4 or more prior lines of therapy, and that is including a proteasome inhibitor, immunomodulatory drug, and anti-CD38 monoclonal antibody. Tecvayli is one of our bispecific T-cell engaging antibodies. You may have also heard this medication and others in this class called off-the-shelf CAR T-cell therapy. This specific medication targets CD3 and BCMA. So how it works is it binds to the CD3 receptor that's expressed on the surface of T cells, and then also the BCMA expressed on the surface of multiple myeloma cells, then forms an immune synapse and it activates those T cells, leading to the release of pro-inflammatory cytokines and then lysis of the BCMA expressing multiple myeloma cells. Similarly to our other bispecific T-cell engaging antibodies, Tecvayli is dosed in a step-up manner. The chart below shows the Tecvayli recommended dosing schedule. It starts with the step-up dosing schedule on day 1, day 4, and day 7, and then it's followed with a weekly dosing schedule as shown. Because the highest risk of CRS and ICANS is during the step-up doses and the first full dose, it is recommended that patients are hospitalized for 48 hours during those step-up doses and the first treatment dose. Also, because of that risk of CRS and ICANS being highest during those step-up doses and first full dose, we aren't giving the dose 1, day 4, or day 7 at Monument Health, and we have them go to a different facility to do those step-up dosing schedules at this time, and then they come to Monument to do the weekly dosing schedule following that. Along with the note that Tecvayli is required to be dosed in a step-up manner due to the risk of CRS and ICANS, it is important to mention compliance. It's very important for patients to maintain on schedule with their injections, or they may have to repeat step-up dosing. This chart here is the specific recommendations on the packaging for restarting after any dose delay, and this is listed dependent on how long the delay has been for the medication, along with the action required for that delay or recommended for that delay. Tecvayli really does not have any dose adjustments that have been recommended at this time, but it is important to note that dose reductions are not recommended for any adverse reactions, but there are potential for dose delays that might be needed to just manage those toxicities throughout treatment. Next, I wanted to discuss one of the trials that was used to show therapeutic efficacy and helped lead to the FDA approval of this medication. So the approval was based on the efficacy and safety data evaluated in a Majestic-1 phase 1 and 2 trial. The efficacy population of this trial did consist of 110 patients who previously had at least 3 prior therapies, including the proteasome inhibitor, an immunomodulatory agent, and an anti-CD38 monoclonal antibody, and had not yet received prior BCMA targeted therapy. The patients with an ECOG performance status of 0 to 1 were included, and patients did have a median of 5 prior lines of therapy with a range of 2 to 14. The main efficacy outcome measure of this trial was overall response rate, which was 61.8%. They did also have 28.2% of patients who achieved a complete response, 29.1% of patients who had a very good partial response, and then 4.5% of patients having a partial response. And then median time to the first response was 1.2 months with a range of 0.2 to 5.5 months. For the safety data that they found in the trial, I just wanted to point out a few of the significant adverse reactions. They did see cytokine release syndrome in about 72% of patients, infection in about 30% of patients, and neurotoxicity in about 57% of patients, including that immune effector cell-associated neurotoxicity syndrome, which they saw in about 6% of patients. The medication does have boxed warnings as well for CRS and ICANS, so important to note that. And then there are a few other common adverse reactions listed here below that did occur in the study. Next, I wanted to go a little bit more into the CRS events that were seen in the study for Teclistamab. So in those 72% of patients who had experienced CRS in the trial, 50% of them had a grade 1 reaction, 21% of those patients had a grade 2 reaction, and only 0.6% of patients had a grade 3 reaction. Most of the patients did experience CRS following step-up dose 1 at about 42% of those patients, or step-up dose 2 at about 35% of those patients, or just the initial treatment dose at about 24% of those patients. And then they did say the median duration of CRS was about 2 days with a range of 1 to 9 days, and the median time to onset of CRS was also 2 days with a range of 1 to 6 days after the most recent dose. As mentioned, less patients in the trial did experience ICANS at only about 6% of those patients. To go a little bit deeper into that, most patients did experience ICANS following also step-up dose 1 at 1.2% of patients, step-up dose 2 at 0.6% of patients, or the initial treatment dose again at 1.8% of those patients. They did mention too that less than 3% of patients developed a first occurrence of ICANS with any subsequent doses, and the median time to onset of ICANS was about 4 days with a range of 2 to 8 days after the most recent dose, with lastly the median ICANS duration being 3 days with a range of 1 to 20 days. So because of the risk of CRS and neurologic toxicity, including ICANS that we have discussed, Teclistamab is only available through a restricted program under a Risk Evaluation and Mitigation Strategy, or REMS, called the Teclistamab and Talvey REMS. And here to the right is just a screenshot of what that REMS website looks like, where we go to for that REMS program. That concludes my presentation over Teclistamab for today. Please let me know if I can help address any questions that you may have. And here is a slide showing the references I used to put this presentation together.